Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Harri Hakulinen, and today we are going to talk about Sailfish SDK. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the Sailfish itself. Then David Greaves talks about the SDK, and Marko will talk about will show how to actually make applications with this SDK. And I believe that after you have seen what Marko is doing, you also understand why we are able to do what we are saying that we are doing. So Sailfish is the independent OS that Jolla is running on our devices. Sailfish is actually the movement to create the independent mobile OS. And it already has been, because we are basing the Sailfish OS to open projects that have been running there for years and even tens of years, like Linux. When we came out in July, we said that Migo is not dead. What does that mean? Migo was the open project run by Linux Foundation to create a mobile Linux. In practice, that work has now stopped in Migo context, but it has been continuing in the MER project ever since. So the work never stopped. It was not very commonly known at some point, but Migo lives there. Now, Sailfish OS is based on the open source projects like MER, and actually Migo also lives there somewhere inside of the Sailfish as well. So Sailfish OS is based on many really commonly known open source projects like Linux, X-Windows, MER, Ophono, Pulse Audio, Qt, Tracker, and the list goes on and on. And everything has been out there for a really long time already. So this is really the simplified picture of the Sailfish OS. Down below, we have, of course, some hardware. Then we have Linux. We have MER. There is things like Qt inside of that. Then we have a Sailfish OS UI framework, including things like home screen, notifications, settings, and all of that. Then we have a Jolla UI components, and of course, Sailfish applications running on top of those. Sailfish SDK itself contains all of that in a form that you can run it in the PC. It also contains Qt Creator, and it will contain some images so that you can run it on some hardware. So of course, it's nice to be able to run on some hardware. Yesterday we said that as the Ericsson is ready to support Sailfish OS, so it means that it will be available in this kind of professional development systems. It will also be available in things like Snowball, which is available for anyone, or in this kind of kits that are actually based on Snowball as well. Okay, and next to the actual SDK, so David can continue.
Take your laptop.
Yeah. Cool.
So, no? Okay.
Se on paremmin kuin treenissä.
No video. Cool. Okay, it looks like I've got no video at the moment, which is great. Nothing? Okay, so we've got a great presentation. It doesn't work that way.
Maybe they've got the sound man running the video today.
It's good feeling, isn't it, Mark? Anything, guys? No. To be fair, the presentational side of this basically just sits down and gives you some images that you can look at. I'm going to have to talk through them. That's cool. But first of all, you know, I've got to say, you Finnish guys and Slush, that party last night, yeah, I'm kind of impressed we're here this morning. So I'm glad you've all turned up. It's good. And the flashbacks as well. Does anybody else remember the girls with the pink hair? So, Sailfish framework. Harri's introduced that, so thanks, Harri. That's our software. And whenever you're doing stuff with software, you need to be able to write more. You need some kind of a software development kit, and that's very much what we're talking about delivering today. So we're building that on the underlying Qt and Mare SDK tools. And these are the things that the Mare project is providing, and the Qt project is providing Qt Creator. And it's an SDK solution for our partners, for our friends. It's all open source. It's all being developed openly in the Mare project and in the Sailfish project, and it's there for use by vendors. And what you will see here later, and what you will see if I could click through it, would be the Sailfish SDK extended with the Sailfish components. This presentation is actually run inside the SDK. The source for what we're doing is available now. So, you know, in terms of a release, the source is already out there. You can go and you can download it and you can actually work with it today. And actually, that kind of brings up a good point, how to work with us, the way the kind of open source community operates. Journalists kind of paint this picture of us hacking in dark, dingy rooms. And, you know, my room's purple and sunny. So you journalists, I think you just need to redecorate or something. But we do. We operate in our rooms. We kind of work all over the world. We work from various locations. And it's interesting because it's a really interesting way of collaborating with people in different countries, in different cultures. But when you do come and work for us, be aware, you know, we've got technological solutions for doing this, IRC, chat mechanisms and such. And if you don't know what that is, Google, it's your friend. But it's our work environment, it's our office. So when you kind of come along to this, don't just walk in to talk to developers and demand solutions. Show that you've done some work, because we've got stuff to do. So you come along, you kind of say, guys, I looked at this problem I've got, and I tried to solve it, and this is what I'm finding, these are my problems. You come along with an attitude like that, where you're looking for specific support, we are incredibly welcoming. We've actually got a really cool welcome bot called ST Skeeps. A lot of you have probably already met it. So there's some hackers around, you can tell. So yeah, it would now come up to a big slide saying, what can you actually do with the SDK? What's this about? It's a practical solution. We're very much about doing things with it. It's about familiarity. So for those people who know the technology, this is actually going to be a relatively comfortable environment. We're not trying to provide something radically different. We're providing something which is productive. And yes, we are also looking to provide simplicity. So there's the ability for new users to come along and get going. We appreciate that. But the capability is there for the experts too. You know, it's got to suit everybody, and actually it does that very well. What do you do? Fundamentally, we're creating applications. Everything you do, it's code. And they're Qt applications using the Sailfish UI components. So even the most basic applications that we produce will have the right kind of feel. They'll be integrated in the environment. And Qt Creator makes it very easy for the coders. It supports services like completion, syntax highlighting, version control is easily accessible. And this it kind of seems small, but actually it's about making it simple but effective techniques for the productivity side of things. You don't waste time with it, and that's really important. As any kind of, if you're looking here from a software management point of view, coder efficiency is important. It lets you deploy. So you can take your code and you can put it onto a device. You can put it onto a virtual machine, a particular device like one of these, or multiple devices if you're actually targeting multiple architectures. I've already mentioned that this is all, management capabilities. Just the ability within the SDK to say, okay, do an upgrade, provide me with the latest set of tools, add a new target. I want to be able to build for this target now. I'll talk about targets a little bit more later. New architectures. Can I install something that will let me build for this variant of ARM or MIPS or something like that? I've already mentioned this is built on the Mare tools. So this is kind of important because the same underlying tools that we provide within the SDK that you're going to see, they're the tools within this thing that we produce, that we ship to you. They are actually used to produce the entirety of Mare, the entirety of Sailfish, the entirety of the Jolla product device. So this is not just a subset of what we do. This is everything you need to produce all the code that I just talked about. And clearly, that means you can do more than just like little applications. You can work, and your team can actually work on the middleware, the kernel, any level of the software stack. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Android. So 3 ways we can also work with the Android environment. Apps developed using this SDK are actually Qt apps, which of course means that we can deploy them directly onto Android devices, or we can deploy them onto iOS. And of course, primarily, we're interested in deploying them onto Sailfish, Jolla devices. So the other aspect of the Android stuff is that many of the applications, the Android applications, would already run courtesy of the Myriad environment. That was mentioned yesterday. And finally, of course, the other way of dealing with them is to say, well, if you want the benefit of the speed of native execution, the total integration with the Qt environment, there's an awful lot of information about porting stuff over. So this is open source. The code that we're doing, we're continuing to work on the SDK. We're working on aspects of efficiency, just being able to take shortcuts, being able to actually use 1 command instead of 3 or 4. We're working on things like integration with automation systems, so that when you've done your work, you can automatically get it, something happens to it. Maybe it goes for review, maybe it goes and gets built into an image, this kind of stuff. The sound's changed. I think you can still hear me. we're also working on integration with testing and QA systems so that when you've produced your code, that will actually go out there and get put through the QA tests and automatically accepted or not into the kind of next releases. Improvements in debugging, being able to work more effectively with debugging directly on the device, profiling, the ability to kind of look into the code and say, okay, this is where it's going slowly, and this is where it's using more power. Emulation, simulation. We mentioned deploying onto a virtual device, which is great because you can then see it onto a desktop without having to have one of these and lug it around. So, you know, if you're on the train somewhere, it's probably not a good idea. But when you start running with virtual environments, you need to then say, okay, so what's the GPS signal doing? Or you might want to actually simulate being all over the world, which, you know, as developers, we'd love to just take it into the field and try it in, you know, Mallorca. That'd be cool. But they won't let us do that. And this is where emulation actually, simulation actually comes into the emulation game. So now it kind of talks about who cares. And this is about saying, well, Sailfish is open. So we're providing this technology preview, and it's about providing early access. And early access to support development for Sailfish. We want to enable contributions. There's a mantra in the open source world, which is release early, release often. And that's what we're doing, you know. And this is actually a good place to set some expectations about what we are delivering and the way we deliver. And I've got to ask you a question, you know. If we delivered you in the SDK a finished project, what's the point of collaborating? You know, it doesn't make sense. In open source, if we show you a finished product and say, hey guys, there it is, big reveal, it's finished, you know, we failed in my opinion. So there are things that need a big reveal, but Stefano's points yesterday about doing and not redoing means that you need to see the work in progress so that you can help make it fit your needs and you can adapt when you see the way things are actually developing. So it's very much about coming along for the journey and being part of the collaboration. So moving on and saying, okay, who needs to, who actually specifically does care? Who are we targeting? And the answer is we're targeting summary, device partners, software houses, application developers, and the community. So device partners are going to be looking at Sailfish for their own products. They're going to be evaluating it. And their evaluation, we want to make that evaluation easy, and we want to make it positive. And they're going to be kind of playing with devices like the ones Harri kind of showed us. And they're going to be also looking at things like scalability for in-house teams, the ability to have subcontract organizations working with them. And they're going to be looking at, you know, this stuff has got to work for that kind of deployment. So we understand that, and we're dealing with it. It's there. We do that. Software houses, you know, porting their offerings, providing a user interface for the verticals, say healthcare, automotive, IVI type spaces, or of course, you know, Jolla mobile device. They want to provide the UI there. Application developers are doing their apps, and there will be an app store story, so they're going to want to be familiar with what we're doing and ready. And finally, probably, of course, the community. Individual contributors, hackers, people exploring new ideas, fixing specific problems, learning on their way, their journey to become part of open source, perhaps in the commercial environment. I mean, that's how many of us actually came into this environment, is to say, guys, we've done something really cool out here, and we then come back and look at the business people, and they say, you know, that way of working has produced something that we can actually monetize. And, you know, we are the open source community. So we've talked about who they are. What are they actually wanting to see? And I think we're just kind of pointing out some of these points. The availability. Frankly, you need to see the SDK that we're going to kind of look at, and you need to know that you can actually develop for the platforms. Portability. You know, developers are actually using Debian, Ubuntu, macOS, Red Hat, SUSE, Windows. So you need to be able to work on all those platforms. flexibility. You need to look at this and say, am I going to be able to work with this, and realize it doesn't force a particular way of working. Learn about the adaptability, open source, so you can change it. The consistency, I mentioned again, I'm going to repeat this, it's the building on the fact that this is the mere tools, it's the core tools within it. So the consistency of the tool set across the whole environment, again, it's really important. You're not using one tool chain over here, another one over there, another one on my build farms. It's the same environment for all of them. Right, so at this point, lack of video is a bit of a pain because I was going to switch to the SDK and show some of it. So let's just have a quick look, see if there is anything that will pop up at this point. Maybe my laptop's decided it's going to like me. And I'm not getting anything. Well, let's see if I can actually try this. No, never mind.
Maybe we should try this one.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Throw that on. Cool. So, what we'll look at, see if we get a video feed there. Dell. Okay, so what we've got here, and I'm not going to mess about with this one too much because it's prepared for the demo and I don't want to spoil that. But we can probably look at a few little things. Things like the welcome page. This is tailored to Sailfish, and part of the adaptability and configurability of this is that if we require this to be configured, we've got things like the tutorials which are going to be providing information specific to just getting started with the Sailfish environment. We're going to provide tutorials which are about working with the components and getting the most out of them. And that's the kind of stuff that you'll get introduced to in the welcome page. We've got the editing screen, and I'm going to do far less clicking here than I would have otherwise. You're editing. You need to see the code, you need to work with it, and that's what this is. The visual design page. There are times when you want to kind of sit there and just work with the layout. And this is really useful for being able to get the setup working for you. People like this. It's productive. Huge amounts of work, debugging. The ability to kind of sit there, set the trace points, and work with a nice graphical debugger. It goes through. You can kind of say, okay, stop on this line and tweak this and see if that fixes the problem. I mentioned the management interface. Yeah, I've got a slightly prettier one than this. The management interface is part of being able to say, okay, we can kind of keep up to date with what we've got. We can add targets and say, okay, please let me download different targets, different devices that we can actually provide, that kind of stuff. Tool chains. If you want to, you just come along and say, I'm going to start developing for ARM v70 NHL. So, actually that's a specific tool chain which has been optimized for a specific version of the ARM environment with, great. If you want to do that, you can. A little bit more on this. Configuration and management, the build environment sitting at the bottom. We'll see some of this when Marko goes through it. And actually what I'll do is I'll probably just leave that on the welcome screen for now. I'm not going to try and switch to the virtual machine. In the background here, there's also a virtual machine running. Okay? And that's kind of important because, come here. You're now going to see an image, well you would, of how it works. And how it works is about saying, what are the core elements that actually make up the SDK when you want to put it on your desktop box? What do you get? You get Qt Creator, a virtualized Mare platform SDK, the Sailfish OS-based SDK in a virtual machine. It's actually a VirtualBox. And the Sailfish components around there. So the visual you want to kind of imagine is that you've got Qt Creator sitting there, a virtual machine running inside your desktop, and they're actually sharing a set of code. So this is how you get the interaction between your desktop and what's going on in there. And the reason we do that is because inside the virtual machine is where we actually do the compiling. So you do your developing on your environment, you save it, Qt Creator passes it into the virtual machine, and it builds in there. Why do we do this? It's highly portable. It means that we can go out there and, you notice I didn't say, oh yeah, we only run on 32-bit Ubuntu or 64-bit Debian or anything like that. If you can run a virtualization environment with VirtualBox, which is basically anybody, you can run the SDK. So this portability means that we can allow them to handle the heavy lifting of platform support. Great, less cost, less effort for us, working with the rest of the open source community. It's easy to update. It's self-contained. There's no user data involved. So it gives us a degree of isolation. We can support multiple targets. The ability to kind of sit there and say, OK, I can do a build for Jolla. I can do a build just for the Mare core if I'm working on that. I can do a build for Nemo or any of our other Sailfish partners. It's easy to extend. Bear with me, but the SDK is built within the SDK, which is, OK, so what? Well, you get the SDK, you get all the source for it. As a vendor, then you kind of have your own team, and you think, you know what? I need to customize this, and if I add these tools in, build my own SDK image and ship it to my team, they don't have to bother setting up all this stuff. You don't have 10 pages of please do this before you start to use it to get the company's environment set up. You can just ship an image. And you get all the power of a complete operating system within the SDK. So we're running, you saw the management interface, we're running a web framework in there. There's other really innovative tools, tricks that we can use to kind of make this effective. And you get Qt Creator, which is actually an immensely powerful IDE in its own right. Keeping an eye on time. I mentioned futures. So there's a nice slide here that says plotting our course, the sailing pun, good. And what can you expect in terms of a roadmap? Where are we going? You'll see more Sailfish components, the plugins which make developing the applications even easier. So we'll see those becoming available in the SDK. And specifically, hopefully, you will see them coming available in Designer so that you can have the graphical interaction with them. And we're working with Digia on that, and they're one of our kind of colleagues who are with the Qt project. And they can help provide the sexy plugins for other specific components as well. We're going to focus on multiple platform deliverables. So say, OK, right, we'll have a blob here, and you can just quickly download this. And if you're running Windows or if you're running Mac OS or something like that, you can just download something fairly self-contained and install that. We've already got, obviously, Qt Creator runs on all these platforms already, so that's significantly along the way. And the other pre-built images are coming soon. Join the project, get involved, help us build the images. They'll get there quicker. Emulation. I've already mentioned developing on the device is really nice. But if you want to basically, it's not always feasible. You don't have hundreds of these within an environment. And you can already get started working on the user interface without needing to have the hardware ready. So we want to be able to improve the emulation experience. It's a real pain when your user experience is tilted sideways, so we want to rotate it correctly, all this kind of stuff. And alongside that, simulation. Working with simulation specifically, when we do all the QA side of things, we're kind of working with it and saying, OK, what happens if you feed in an SMS input at the same time as the phone rings and we're just getting a GPS update or something? So in order to kind of work with this kind of environment, you need the QA testing. But that QA test stuff is also the stuff that you actually want in the environment to simulate stuff. So we're playing around with how we can develop that. Packaging. We deliver QA-able units. And what we want to do is make sure that those units are just come straight out of the box. You can put them into an image. I keep saying image. For those who don't realize, what we do is we create and on a kind of collection of everything you need to go on the device, and then just flash it, burn it onto a device so that it boots up, not one at a time. And that's what an image is. Okay, this next slide says deeper technical details. And I don't want to frighten anybody, so I've been told I'm not allowed to go into deep technical details. But I will do a quick run through on some of the technologies that we've got. And the engineers, anybody who wants to kind of come and talk to us about them later, please do. So we actually support multiple architectures. We've got multiple cross-compile tool chains. I kind of pointed those out before. We're using a very innovative technology that's been developed, again, in the open. Come and talk to us about how that works, if that's something that interests you. We use discrete targets, which, again, that enables us to support multiple concurrent devices. And they can be running different versions of Qt, completely different variations on Sailfish. So that's really important when you're wanting to work with your next generation device at the same time as you're finishing off the device that you're kind of taking to market now. The ability to have both of those in the same SDK at once, really powerful. We're using the same code here, as I said, that we used to build Jolla and everything else underneath it. And that's also the code that we use on our build farms. So come and talk to us about how we do the build systems at the back end and all this stuff, which is also, around the Mare project and Sailfish. Different variations on the virtualization. A lot of you, I say VirtualBox and you say, but I'm using. Well, that's okay. We can cope with variations on the virtualization, especially in the Linux environment where we've got far more efficient ways of sharing the data. Okay, right. Despite having no slides, I think I've come through that. We're pretty much done. So Marko is going to demonstrate how we actually work with the SDK itself. And this is very much about how our coders work. So you're looking at this and seeing professional tools, the way we iterate through coding and working on the device. And after that, if there's some time, we'll take some questions and hopefully give some answers. When we do that, we'll keep it brief. I focus on one question per person. But Marko, thank you.
Thank you, David. Yeah, cool. First, let's check that everything works. Can we have the device? Yeah. So, I'm Marko Mattila, and I work as a software engineering at Jolla. And so I will actually show you the code. I sometimes have heard that before. And what I'm about to show you here is that how you can actually make an application in, well, 20 minutes, 25 minutes to Sailfish OS. And so I have here a template project already. And oh yes, the device is connected on my laptop to my laptop using USB cable. So I can actually execute the application directly from the SDK, from the IDE. And the starting point for each application is this application window. By the way, who or how many of you have done something with the QML? Okay, quite many. Yeah. Okay, I don't go deep technical details how QML works, but the idea is basically show you how fast we can create applications to Sailfish OS. So this is the starting point. First, we import Qt Quick module, and then we also need to import Jolla components. Jolla components is a module that comes with our SDK. And with that, you can get the user experience that we have created to you. And there are plenty of ready-made components that you can use. And the import pages is just actually importing stuff under pages directory, which is in this project. So about the application window, it's the starting point for each application. And this is the file that is loaded first. And we have set here an ID. And this is something that we can later use. We can refer to this ID later on. We have locked the orientation. So this application actually works only on a portrait mode. Then, if you saw yesterday our UI demonstration, you have probably seen the active covers. So it's also possible to define here the active cover for your application. We don't do it in this demonstration. And then our application loads the initial page, which is called first page. And before I'm actually showing you the application running, I showed the first page. This was something that I created beforehand to demonstrate that, for example, you get from Jolla components a button, label, slider, things like that. There are plenty of other things too. Let's try to run it on device. So basically what I need to do is that I just click build and run. And if we wait a little bit, it should appear there. So, whoa, we have an application running. OK. You show the slider here, for example. This is what it's required to make it, to get it and to use it. So basically only a few lines of code here. I don't go details, but the idea is to show you that you don't need to do much. Also, we have a label here which displays the slider value. And so when the slider value changes, we can display it on the label. And then we have here the button, which says click me. And before going there, what it really does, I want to tell you a little bit about our theming, or sorry, the wrong term. It's ambience. So you saw yesterday how we can actually change the ambience. So I have here gallery application open, and I get another image and select create ambience. And now if I look at our application, you can see that all the colors changed. So this is basically the idea there, that if you're using our Jolla components, you get this for free. So you don't need to care about that. And I will change it back to the girly colors. So, and now we're back to the red. So I think this is quite nice. About the navigation inside the application. So usually your application contains more than one page, and you want to be able to navigate between those. And that comes also quite free from Jolla components. So if I click here, the button, it shows the second page. And how that's done here is basically this one-line code, which says here that window.pagetag.push, and then it passes the second page.qml. And when this one is called, it displays the second page. And I can get back to the previous page by dragging using my finger, or tapping the top left corner. But I may also want to use button, custom component to do that. So here in this line, we just say the window, which was the ID that we defined here, application window Windows ID is window. And we say that pop me from the stack. So when I click this, we get back. Yet, only a few lines of code, and we get this kind of functionality for free. OK, let's actually build something cool. So this was the idea was to show you what we can have there, but I actually want to show you how you can create a real application. So what I do here next is that I actually remove all the template code. And as you know, we are using many open source components. And Qt is one of thing, and Qt mobility also. So I want to import a gallery model from Qt mobility. And I also want to import from Nemo the thumbnailer. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to fetch all the images from this device and show them in a grid. And we can do that quite easily using document gallery model. By the way, I don't want to confuse you about the details. I have created for demonstration purposes so-called snippets, which are a piece of code that I can quite fast paste to this QML file. I try to do my best to explain what these things to do. So what I created here was the document gallery model, and I have given it ID called gallery model. And this is interested in about all the images. I could also define that it's interested in about all the videos on the device. And then I want that when I get an image, I want that in that one single image, I have three properties called URL, title, and date taken. URL is used to getting or actually loading the actual image. Title is something that we want to display later, and date taken is something that we use for sorting. So auto update means that if I capture an image with camera, this model updates, it gets the latest image also. And then I want to sort all the images based on date taken. OK, this is just a model. It doesn't contain any visual elements that we can display. So let's add something visual there. And I have created a snippet called grid view. And this basically is a grid that fills the whole page, the whole view area. And I have defined that the cell or the thumbnail size is a square. And the width is half of the width of the whole page. And we haven't defined the model, which is the gallery model that we want to use. And then we need to define delegate. Delegate is an element that we use to actually displaying the image. So for each image, this QML grid view creates a delegate, which we create now. So I have created a delegate called thumbnail, which is actually an image. And I have set it asynchronous, which means that it doesn't block when it loads the image. Then, as a source, we now use the Nemo thumbnailer, which we imported in the fourth line from the top. And then we ask the URL that was something that was defined here. And the source size and height is set same as is defined here. So let's see. Let's run it. Yay! We have a grid. And we can scroll it. Yeah, works nicely. But still, okay, we have plenty of images there, but we don't do much about this yet. So what I want to do next, I want to add there a little bit more functionality, like I want to be able to sort these images so that I can also select that, do I want to show the first, latest image or the oldest image first. And if you saw yesterday's presentation about the UI, you should be familiar with the pulley menu. So let's add there a pulley menu. That comes from Jolla components. And basically, this is it. I want to add there a pulley menu, which has two options. One for selecting the latest image first, and the second one for selecting the oldest image first. Well, let's run this first and see if it works. OK, now you can see the slight glow from at the top. And if I drag down, I can see the options there. At the moment, these don't do anything because we haven't implemented any functionality there. So let's add that next. So the first option, let's make it latest first. And how we do the sorting? Well, it's quite simple. We have the document gallery model here and the sort properties. So let's modify the sort properties a little bit. Can you see this? Yeah, I guess. And let's copy this and change it a little bit. For the sorting, we use actually the property name, but we just add there a minus prefix. And this is basically the same as we are already using. So the oldest first. And let's try it. OK, same order as in the previous version. Now we have new titles there. So let's select the latest first. OK, and it sorts the result. Quite easy, only a few lines of code. How many of you want to code this using C or C++? I don't. Yeah. OK, next. I'm not still satisfied with this, and we have 10 minutes time, so let's add there a little bit more. OK. What I want to do next is that when I tap the thumbnail, I want it to open a bigger version of this image. So that's done by adding mouse array here. This is the thumbnail delegate. So each delegate will have a mouse array which reacts on a tap. And for this, I use the window page tag push you saw earlier. I said that open the second page, .qml. And also what I want to do here is that I want to pass some information like what image should be opened. So I pass current index and the index of this delegate. I'm not going to explain what this really do here. And then I want to pass the model, which is the gallery model we already saw. And I refer it to via grid. OK, this is what it requires to open the second page, but we want to modify the second page. So I will remove the template code here. I add here a list view. Now we are getting a little bit bigger piece of code. This is a horizontal list, which you can flick horizontally. We make this to fill the almost the whole page. Let's add ID for this first. Title text. And I want this list view start from the bottom of the start title text. Yeah, and then we need to add the properties that we get from the, or properties that are filled by the first page. So, and we refer to list view, current index, and also the model is a list view model. And we have already a delegate here, which is basically the same kind of stuff as we did in the thumbnail, but this one is bigger. So if I haven't screwed up, it should work. OK, the first page looks exactly the same. We can still sort it. And if I tap this, OK, we'll see the bigger image. And we can flick. Now we can't drag it back to the previous page, because this list view actually steals our dragging events. So we can still drag back using the title area or the top left corner by tapping it. So let's add a little bit more. I still have a few minutes. What I want to do is that I want to show the title of the image here. So that can be done quite easily, only with a few pieces of characters. So I get the current item from the model using the current index. And then I ask the title. So let's try it again. Now you can see the title changes, the page header changes there. And only with minor modifications. I could also ask something else like the resolution of the image and display it there if I want. And to clarify a little bit where that title comes, so it was here when we asked the gallery model. I want to still do one thing before finishing our demonstration. I want to be able to zoom the image. So let's add multi-touch zoom there. And for that, I have created another snippet. And not so much code. I'm not going to explain what kind of things there are, but the idea is to show that it doesn't require much code to gain this kind of functionality. And if this works, I'm very happy. OK. We open the image. We can still flick. Let's try zooming. Ooh. Ooh. I think this is very sexy. Yeah, this was about our demonstration. I hope you're all happy to see how easy it's to create a cool application. It took a little bit less than 25 minutes to do this kind of stuff. Of course, if you write everything from scratch, it might take an hour, but still. Okay. David?
Okay. So we've not got a huge amount of time, so questions and answers session. Keep it brief, one question, and I must remember to repeat it. Any questions, anybody? Do we support remote compilation? Yes. The virtual machine is technically remote. It goes over a network link, so yes.
What the SDK binaries? When are you going to release?
Binaries.
Binaries.
Okay, so set some expectations during the demonstration. We've got the source code available today. That means that people can download it and compile it and make their own binaries. We will be putting some effort into producing some binaries. I haven't got a schedule yet, but expect it over the next few weeks.
So one thing that I forgot to turn this on during my presentation, so we actually have this code running also in these nice devices from SDE. And we also have 3 gentlemen from SDE here, if you want to ask some questions after the event, for example.
Cool. Any other questions? Licensing of Yep, I understand. Makes sense. So the question was about the licensing of applications that are produced by this environment. So the intention is that you'll be able to produce applications which are going to be commercially licensable, and you'll be able to produce applications which are open source. Any other questions? If not, I think we're done. So thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.